right, everybody. Welcome. It is great to see you. Hey, Diamond Row. Cinnamon, hot. How are you? I know it has been so long since I was here, right? I did a quick little live the other day because I was appalled at the treatment of Lauren Matthias on Hidden True Crime. It was shocking and embarrassing, truly. So I don't know what's wrong with people. Like, I don't understand why people are so aggressive and personal, and they don't know us, right? There's no reason to go after her like that. It was Halloween. She wanted to see her child, her husband. It just, I don't know what's wrong with people. I'm not going to get off on that again. I've said what I, felt like I wanted to say, but it was horrible. So anyway, I hope all of you are doing well. Critter Watcher, good to see you. Midnight View, welcome. Mandy Moo, hello. Look, this Richard Allen trial has gone completely off the rails. Okay. It's just gone off the rails. There is so much wrong. I don't even know why there hasn't already been declared a mistrial. Truly, I don't understand it. And I mean, we know why, right? We know why there hasn't been a mistrial. And that is because the judge is in on the fix. You can get mad at me for saying that. You can say that I'm being unfair or that I'm speaking against law enforcement, but I'm not. This is some bizarre, crazy crap that we're listening to. And thank God for Andrea Burkhart, Lawyer Lee, Lauren Matthias, Lana from Truth and Transparency. Thank goodness for these people. And the reason that I say it is this, that, if you and I were left to believing what is being printed in the newspapers, we would be ready to send this guy down the river. We would, 100%. In fact, when I was reading news articles about this, because I wanted to see if the not real reporters, what do you call them? Media reporters. If the legacy reporters, the people that work for mainstream media, I wanted to see if they were reflecting accurately what our real attorneys from YouTube are telling us. I mean, they're not all getting together deciding to lie to us, people. You're not going to have Harvard-educated attorneys, people that spent their whole lives, in the courtroom. You're not going to have these highly ethical, moral, well-educated people get together and say, "Oh, let's just make this fun. Let's tweak the story a little bit so we can get extra clicks and views and money." Not this group of people. Absolutely not. A professional has no need for those little gimmicky tricks that you get from other people that are just sort of talking heads and they don't really have any life experience or training to bring to the discussion, right? These people do. These people know what they're doing. They know the laws. They understand the legal process. Not these people. They're telling you what they're seeing, and they're all telling us the same thing, that there is something terribly wrong happening in this courtroom. Terribly wrong. And to make it all the worse, it is the judge's job to keep things on the road, to keep things in the middle of the road, right? Keep it between the white lines. And she has abdicated. Not only has she abdicated that really, really important role, But in some ways, you get the feeling that she is the captain of this ship. And I am left with, because I'm a psychologist, okay? I'm left with the question of motive, even utility, culpability, because people don't just lie. People will not just say, I'm just going to be a liar. When people lie, there is a benefit. There is primary or secondary gain, hands down. If you're going to lie or you're going to mislead or you're going to break your professional ethics, there is a reason for that. Now, you could say, well, stupidity. Okay, sure. Fine. Dr. Walla? Dr. Walla? That was, I think, my opinion, what little bit I know. I'm listening to all of these attorneys that are in the courtroom. I've got a notebook that I'm writing down all the facts and keeping everything straight. Dr. Walla also became part of the problem and also would have been part of the solution, right? That it would have been absolutely 100%, it would have been part of her ethical mandate to alert the powers that be if there is a person who is being subjected to systematic abuse, especially a person that is in the care of the state, and you as a health care professional, you become witness to systematic abuse and you don't report that, you have now put your license in legal jeopardy. Period. So the judge should have been there to control this thing. The Dr. Walla absolutely abdicated her position as caregiver and caretaker. And not only did she abdicate her position to shine a spotlight on the egregious behavior of so many in the prison system, so many in the state. Not only did she abdicate that really important ethical position, she became part of the problem. She made friends with people on YouTube, and there is really good evidence to suggest that she was actually breaking Richard Allen's right to confidentiality with his healthcare providers. She broke that confidentiality. And Dr. Walla, that is grounds for you to lose your license. You are now so the liability that you now carry, you have compromised, you have broken your principles of professional practice, not only so many of them, your personal responsibilities. You've also violated the protection of the profession as the reputation of the entire profession. You're a mess. I don't know what. There's no illusion to stand up and say, well, maybe it could have been this, and maybe a little of additional education, maybe this, but no. You don't get out of school without someone having drilled into your head over and over and over and over and over. You absolutely protect the anonymity and confidentiality of your patients and your records, even if you're dead. That's how bad it is. They grill into our heads that the information that I am privy to people's lives, to some of the some of the things that happen in life that you've never uttered to another person. Nobody's ever heard anything about it. And yet, because you are really motivated to be healthier and happier and do better in life, you will finally find the courage to share with your psychologist. You protect that information at all costs. And this is drilled into your head when you're in your PhD program. This is drilled into your head over and over and over and over again. I'll tell you something else. We are required, as licensed psychologists, we are required to take continuing education hours every year. Okay, you can't renew your license if you haven't satisfied your continuing education continuing education hours. We are mandated, and I think this is in every state, and I know it's true in Europe. We are mandated to take 6 of our continuing education hours must be in ethics, which is what governs this idea of confidentiality and anonymity, how to properly handle your records, things like that. This is something that we have to get updated training every single year. So by the time that you have been practicing for 10, 15, 17 years, you pretty much know exactly what your principles of professional practice, your ethics, you know them forward, backward, sideways, up, down. You know which is the most often invoked ethical violation, which one leads you to immediate loss of your license, which one would call for additional education. She has no excuse for what she did, just like Linda Stanley, just exactly like Linda Stanley. Just because Linda Stanley was an attorney, that doesn't matter. The guidelines remain the same in terms of professionalism. The state that you are practicing in, whether you're an attorney or whether you're a psychologist or a medical doctor or whatever, a professional engineer, all of these licensed professions that are overseen by the state, they give that license to you because it tells other people, potential clients or patients, it tells them that you have been tried and tested, and your background has been investigated, and you are a stable, sane, very well educated, knowledgeable human being in your field of study, and that you can trust this licensed person. That's what licensing is telling you. And that this woman, I don't give a damn. Here's how it would go. The explanation was this. Well, I'm Dr. Walla, and I am a true crime aficionado. Sorry, Scott Reich. Aficionado. And then I became the provider for Richard Allen. Probably realistically one of the biggest cases in the true crime community. Truly, 7 years we've been waiting for this. So she says, oh, I didn't just follow the Delphi case. I follow a lot of these cases. What do you want to bet she followed Barry Morphew case? Bet she did. So, I watch a lot of them. I just like true crime. And then I became his mental health care provider. And so then I started talking to Gray Hughes. What? What? So this is what it should have looked like. This is how it should have gone. I myself am a true crime aficionado. Okay, I love it. I don't know why, because I'm weird. I love it. Then, because I'm in Houston, large city, right? Let's say that the guy that killed his wife, let's say this case drops in my lap. We need a psychological evaluation on this accused wife killer. And I look at it and I go, oh my God, Lee Gilly. Ooh, I did some videos on him. I could get famous. If people knew, I bet I would get a lot of subscriptions. Maybe I could do Patreon. I could do the evaluation on this dude and then make a lot of money. Let the word kind of get out that I know Lee Gilly in real life. Ooh. That's not what would have happened. That's what Dr. Walla did, exactly what Dr. Walla did. Here's what would have happened. If somebody walks in and they say, oh, you got to go do an evaluation down at the prison, because I don't like to do that. No offense, Dr. John. I don't know. Anyway, so there's, you got to go down to the prison, you got to do, evaluation. And then I look at it and I go, oh, Lee Gilly, I did this. Like, I've been following this online and I did a video on my channel. I'm sorry, I can't do this. That's what would have happened. That's what would have happened. I'm sorry. I have an entanglement that will not ethically allow me to go anywhere near this guy, or especially his private, personal, protected information. Sorry. I'll take over your case so that you can complete this evaluation. Let me take over this case that I don't know anything about, whatever's going on, and you take Lee Gilly. That is what you do. What about this situation? What if, let's say I'm working at the hospital and I've been doing a lot of reporting about, let me think, who would be someone that got hurt? Well, let's just keep it. Let's just say I was at the hospital working when Lee Gilly's wife came in. When she was brought in, she stayed alive a little while, I think, and before she passed away. So let's say I was there working, and they said, we need you to go in and assess that patient and tell us, what you think. If I'm the only one that is there that night on staff, and if there is no reasonable option to find another person to come in and do that evaluation, and because it would be an immediate type of triage problem, I would go ahead and complete it. I would tell the attending physician that I knew about the case, and last night I did a video, but I don't know them personally. I just reported what was in the news, nothing else. Then they would say, have you tried to find someone else? Yes, I did. And there's nobody else. And it's 3:00 in the morning. And I know you guys need this information. And then they would say, complete your evaluation and then hand it off as soon as you can to someone else, right? So I'd go in, do the assessment, write up my report, and then clean, done, away from it. I still could not come on and ever again speak about Lee Gilly or the death of his wife. Never again would I even come close to talking about that case at all. Lest I'm perhaps suggest, maybe someone thinks I'm talking about this family. Even if I don't name them, just if you were to find out that I was the one that had done the assessment, you might think, oh, I remember when she gave that example. I bet she was talking about Lee Gilly. I'm not even going to come close to put myself in a compromised position. I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it to myself personally, not going to do it to the practice of psychology in general. And that's why you hear me say things like, I'm not going to talk about these abuse cases with children. You're never going to see me go on this channel and do like really follow like Summer Wells, some of these cases where the real focus is on the children and their day-to-day life. I'm not going anywhere near that. And the reason is because of what I do in real life. I'm not going to do it. So Dr. Walla went just off the rails. I cannot understand, not for a moment, I cannot understand what, number one, why she did not tell them, as she's ethically mandated to do, I cannot be his mental health provider. I can't. You actually, the prison actually should be forced to go outside of the prison. If she was employed with the prison, they would be required to go outside of the prison and contract with a different healthcare provider simply because she was not able to do it due to the amount of time that she had spent online going to these Facebook groups that were about the death of Abby and Libby. Very, very close relationship with Gray Hughes. There's no way she talks herself out of this with the licensing board. No way. So this, she gets fired from the prison, but Judge Gull allows her to come into that courtroom as a witness to a man that you watched being systematically abused. It's like psychological warfare. It's MK Ultra. It's MK Ultra. They were programming this man, y'all. So when I go to that and I see the medications that he was on, the way that he was being questioned, over a year in solitary confinement, do you understand what that would do to your brain? There was quite a bit of focus on, that he smeared feces on his face, that he was drinking water out of the toilet. We later found out drinking water out of the toilet was simply because they turned the water off to his cell. So he didn't have any water to drink. Do you know that you can only live 3 days without water, but you can live 30 days with no food? You can die without water quickly. And they turned his water off. Why? Because they were wanting a confession. Why were they so intent on this guy to just say, I did it, right? And they were forceful. Holman was horrible to this man. The medications, the isolation, just the sensory deprivation that he must have experienced. A year? Can you imagine the horror and the terror to believe that you're going to pick up your car? They call, oh, we got your car ready. If you want to come get your car, we've processed it. Everything's fine. And then you go there to get your car and you are arrested for a 7-year cold case against 2 little girls that were in your neighborhood that you had given photographs, free photographs, to Becky Patty as she came through the drive-thru. I cannot imagine the horror, the confusion that this guy felt. I cannot imagine. But then here's where it gets really bad. He's not kept in the jail. He's transported hours away to a full-blown prison where he is then stripped naked and left to sleep on the floor with nothing. And I mean no clothes, nothing. Because when you're on suicide watch, that is, if you ever get arrested, here's what you do. I'm great. I'm just going to use this time for rest and relaxation. How the kids doing? You ought to try getting arrested sometime. This is going to be really good. I'm looking forward to my meals being cooked. Thank you so much for doing this for me. I don't want any bail. Just leave me alone. I'll be just fine here. And you smile from ear to ear and you tell them, all the great, wonderful things that it is about getting arrested. And all of that is simply so that you don't get put on suicide watch, because there's nothing worse in a jail than suicide watch. It's true. I know of some prisons where the people are chained to the concrete floor, spread eagle with no clothes on. They still do that today. So he thinks he's going to get his car. They said, we're going to take your car. We're looking for blood, remnants of blood, evidence of any sort, fibers, whatever. Then they called. They said, we're done. We got your car's ready to go. It's been processed. We're ready. He's like, oh, great. Fine. All good. That's super. Do you think if this was a guilty man, do you think he would be like, wow, I thought for sure I was a goner. Like, I totally got in my car covered in blood, head to foot. Even though I've been scrubbing it, that damn DNA, that's some hard stuff to get out. The luminol, pretty effective. That is cool that they didn't find anything. Yep, I'm just going to go right in there and get my car. That didn't happen. The minute they took his damn car, if he did it, guarantee you he would have left the state. But they took his car. So he goes to get it. They arrest him. They don't leave him in the jail. They drive him hours away and they put him in an actual prison where he's then put on suicide watch, and then later in complete and total solitary confinement for his own good, to keep him safe. And he's left there for more than a year. And then he begins this very odd behavior, right? He's smearing feces on himself. He's babbling incoherently. He's saying, I did it, I did it, I didn't, I did not, I did not, I did not. He's allowed to speak to his wife once, twice a month. And she doesn't even recognize him at that point. He's just babbling and saying, he's saying, I think I did it. I think I did it. She's like, no, you didn't. Why are you saying that? What's wrong? She would know if he killed those two girls. He would have been completely out of sorts. He would have been completely dysregulated. So, when the brain is deprived of stimulation, how many of you have heard of, I'm having a brain fart. Your ears ringing really loud. I don't know what's wrong with my brain today. I didn't sleep very good last night. Tinnitus. Poor brain. Tinnitus. So tinnitus, you have a breakdown in your ability to hear. So you're not, the sensory stimulation is muffled and you're not hearing things as clearly. And the brain doesn't like that. The brain is like, wait a minute, I have all these cool senses. I know what direction my body is in air at any given point in time, what direction I move in. I can hear and see and touch and feel. And then suddenly your ears are not working as clearly or as effectively as they had previously. And the brain is going, hey, what happened to the sound? Where is it? And, the ear's not working very well. So you can't hear. So now the brain begins this very complicated process of testing the environment. It's trying to hear things. It's looking for sound. And that's when you get that, see, it's looking. Do you know you can turn music on or a TV or something at just a level that is so low you can barely hear it, but that it will be sufficient to stop your tinnitus. Weird, right? Can you imagine if every sensory avenue in your body was going through its own form of tinnitus? Because you had been left alone in the dark in a cell with no window and no noise, no television, nothing for more than a year. Yes, you will go crazy. Read about sensory deprivation experiments. They're a nightmare. They're a nightmare. He was basically put in an environment, not of complete sensory deprivation, not like a tank, but pretty close, right? If they've got you there month after month after month after month, you're pretty close to being handicapped to be kind, because of zero cognitive stimulation, zero neurological firings. You are numb. And just like your ears testing for sound in the environment, so will your vision start testing. Is there light? Do I see form? Oh, why is Donald Trump standing in my jail cell? You will then begin to manifest these visual hallucinations. You also can become quite delusional in that state. But the worst part of it, this is where you get into MK Ultra territory. You put this man in solitary confinement for more than a year, and you're popping him with Haldol. He's already on Seroquel. His brain was in just emptiness. There was nothing stimulating it. There was no information going into it. And I don't know if you've noticed or not, but you don't really have clear control over what your brain does. Your heart beats, whether you think about it or not, right? That's a simple example, but there's a lot of what we experience that the brain is on autopilot 24/7. Even when we're fast asleep, our brain is responding to stimuli that is in the environment, even while we're asleep. It's keeping us safe and protected. What they did to him was something like that would come out of the military. They restricted any sort of cognitive stimulation. Sensory input was severely limited. Then they began giving him medication that absolutely would have made him numb and would have been highly sedating. And then they had these sadistic bastards sitting around saying, "You did it. You know you did it. Come on, Richard. We know that you did it. We've got this information. You did that. Your wife told us this." And it was all lies. But the point is, whether it was lies or whether it's truth, the point is that his brain was in such a level, so compromised in terms of just normal function, he couldn't make sense of what was real and what was dreamlike or delusional. And so he developed, I think, it's my opinion, I think he developed a type of phantom memory, right? Like the memory syndrome, where you think that you've forgotten bits of your childhood, and then after you work with a psychiatrist who pops you full of medication, then suddenly you remember this horrible abuse that you suffered in childhood. That's not real anymore. We know that is suggestive, that people are given these suggestions. The brain is trying desperately to make sense of it through this process. I'm trying to think the fastest way to explain it. There are holes. There is missing bits of information when your brain is recording memory or experience. The brain, because it's lacking holes, the brain will try to fill in the missing information with what seems logical. It's just like if you took 5 photographs of a car wreck, You'd have a little bit of the car wreck, a little bit of the car wreck, a little bit of the car wreck, but there'd be missing bits in between each of those photographs, correct? So the brain goes through this process of meaning making using a Gestalt type of process. And it just says, we know what we're seeing in these two pictures. Now, how can we like build a bridge between them that is logical and expected? A prediction, if you will. They suggested to this man that he did this. And they suggested to him these memories after putting him in a highly, highly suggestive neurological state. You cannot believe anything that he said during that time. It doesn't matter how much he believes it. Here's a strange comment. And I'm going to be careful with the language here. I'm just going to use the letter F for the word. Okay, just politeness. If I effed them, I effed them. If I killed them, I killed them. Now, I guess if you are Mr. Holman, you say to yourself, yay, we got our confession. But if you're Dr. Walla and you are ethical and knowledgeable, you stop and say, hold on a damn minute. He didn't say, I did F them, I did kill them. That is not what he said at all. He said, if I did it, then I did it. If I killed them, then I killed them. Does that sound like a man who's given a confession? Or does that sound like a man who is very confused? It's like if you lose your car keys and you lose them and you go, I know I left my car keys right here on this table. I leave them there every single day when I walk in from work and they're not there. That's so crazy. Where are they? I know I left them there. I leave them there every day. I know that I did. And so you're like, well, I got to find them. I got to look around and I got to search because, who would have taken my car keys? And so you start going through in your mind and you're like, is someone going to steal my car? Maybe they came in, took my keys. They're going to come back tonight and drive my car away. What happened? You're like, no, that's weird. People wouldn't come in my house and take my keys, but I left them there. I know I did. I don't know. And then you decide, well, I better call and order me a new little key fob, and get things going again. And you decide, I'm just going to have some cereal tonight for dinner. And so you go in there to get your milk for your cereal. And guess what? There's your car keys right there in the refrigerator. You never leave your keys in the refrigerator. And you're like, what happened to my car keys? Like, why the hell are they in the refrigerator? I wouldn't even hear all day. I remember I walked in the door and then I went to my room, my dressing room and changed in my comfortable clothes, but I hadn't even been to my refrigerator. What in the hell is happening here? Right? And then what do you say to yourself? Maybe I did. Like, I don't remember it, but I don't know of any other way to kind of explain it. So then my husband comes in and I say, the weirdest thing happened. For some reason, I took my car keys and put them in the refrigerator before I went to go get undressed. And I don't remember it. What the hell's wrong with me? Am I going crazy? And then my husband, because he's a little practical joker, he says, oh yeah, you totally did it. I saw you. And I would be like, you saw me? Yeah, of course. You came in, you still had your purse in your hand, and you took those keys and laid them right up there, and then you left. And then I'd be like, I'm going crazy. Like, I'm going crazy. And then what would I say? Okay, well, if I did it, I did it. I guess I did. There's no other explanation. I did it. Wow, I think I'm scared. I think I'm really freaked out that I would do something so crazy. And there is not an ounce of memory in my head. Maybe I better call the neurologist and get a doctor's appointment. But if I did it, I did it. Like that, if I did it, I did it. Right? And then my husband says, no, I was playing a joke on you. Right? And then I'm like, well, you asshole. Okay. No, I wouldn't strike. I might strike him. No, I wouldn't strike him. Okay. You see my point, though, how someone can go from being absolutely normal, clear sensorium, no mental illness, everything fine, and through just a couple of little curious events, they can be forced to believe something that never happened. Absolutely true. All right. So I think that a really huge part of the evidence or lack of evidence that we've seen with Richard Allen trial, this statement that he made, if I did it, I did it. That is a very clear indication that this is a guy who has undergone a process of gaslighting, or can we call it by its real name, brainwashing. This is a guy that has been psychologically manipulated, and they did it in a systematic, planned way. They used isolation, sensory deprivation. They used medication, chemicals, and then they used suggestion of thought. And we saw the result of this guy. You remember when he's sitting in the chair and they've got the handcuffs on and he's just, you can just see he's crazed. He's in a panic. His eyes, he's terrified. Oh my God, what is going on in Indiana? I don't know, but I am going to tell you something. The FBI, the Department of Justice, somebody needs to go in there and clean that crap up. Something very bad is happening. Very bad. Very bad. I can't say that enough. Again, if we go back to the very beginning of this video, and I talk about people doing things that they do, and because there's some kind of payoff, right? There's something that there's some either primary, secondary reward. And you have to look at motive and compulsions, like what could be causing this. When I bring up motive, I'm not talking about Richard Allen's motive, because Richard Allen's got a jelly head. Richard Allen is a pudding head after what they've done to this man. He's a pudding head. He doesn't know what he believes. He's not really sure which of his memories are real and which ones were suggested. He doesn't know. And frankly, it's going to take him years of therapy to get it worked out. Years. They've created in this man a dissociative state. Now, who is they? Judge Gull, 100%. This could not have been accomplished without the involvement of Judge Gull, period. Couldn't have happened without her. Holman, if we don't look at anybody else from the prosecution's office, if we don't look at anybody in law enforcement, and can I say this, Tobe Lesenby, you are a problem, Tobe. But let's just look at these two primaries, just the judge and Holman, the detective. What's the motive? What is driving this insanity? I don't know. It doesn't. The hypotheses, the possibilities that come to my mind are bad. I think for me, one of the things that is horrifying in this whole case, to me, my opinion, and I'm going to ask you guys in just a minute, to me, the most horrifying part of this was the placement within the prison in solitary. There just wasn't any benefit to any of it. It's mindless. It was mindless. It was seemingly mindless. But again, I don't believe anybody does anything without there being a motivation. You don't. Everybody's got motivation. Even a serial killer has motivation, right? Maybe it's not reasonable. Maybe it's not logical, but for them in the moment that they have the compulsion, when they're doing the act, they know why they're doing it. So if I just look at Judge Gull, why? Why, Seagull? What are you doing, lady? And your impunity, these things that you're doing that I've watched with my own eyes, Harvard educated attorneys, they are in disbelief. They're aghast. One of them has even started making filings against this court, against the state. What the hell does this lady think is going to happen? Is she dumb? Is Judge Gull stupid? I ask you that. Is this a foolish woman, or is this a woman who's suffering from brain damage? Is she somehow chemically compromised? What is wrong with Judge Gull? And here's what I mean. She is definitely crossed over the line of her role to the point that she has been slapped down by the Supreme Court, the Indiana Supreme Court. And that did not stop her curious behavior. And one of the questions at this point, I think, I'm not an attorney, I'm a psychologist, but at this point, I think that these defense attorneys are simply just now playing to the appeal, right? That the appeal process is where salvation will lie for this guy if he survives it. I'm not altogether sure that they're going to allow him to live at this point. I think it's that bad. So maybe the defense attorneys, maybe they're just not in belief that Judge Gull will even allow this thing to go to a guilty, not guilty moment. That no matter what, through her machinations, through Judge Gull's influence on this courtroom, in a highly unethical and illegal, maybe at some point way, that she is manipulating this jury. And maybe the defense attorneys just sort of feel like, boy, she has got it in for this guy or us. It could be personal against the defense attorneys. But she'll never allow there to be a not guilty verdict. And so we should be extra, extra, extra careful to preserve these issues for appeal, right? That's driving them. I mean, these witnesses they'll have a piece of paper in their hand that shows what they said 3 weeks ago. And then they'll go, no, that doesn't recollect I don't remember this. I remember it different. Oh, I'm sorry. You said this 3 weeks ago. Weeks. Now you don't remember what 3 weeks ago, you told us a story about what happened 7 years ago. But now 3 weeks later, you're saying you don't remember, that the way you remember it is that you went straight home to work after work, or that you went and took care of your ATM business. He clearly said he took care of the ATM business. That was 7 years after the fact. But then after Holman gets a hold of this guy, now he steps back and goes, well, I was wrong. That was the one day I didn't go check my ATMs, even though I do that every day. I mean, this is some nasty business going on in Indiana. Nasty. So Judge Gull being foolish, low IQ, evil, if you will, does she believe that she can be invisible? Does she believe that no information is getting out of this courtroom? I think that's what she had hoped for. I think that's what she wanted, but she never anticipated Andrea Burkhart and Lawyer Lee. She never anticipated that level of lawyering. You know what I mean? So this is a fascinating process. I do think that I have settled upon, and it could be changed at any time, my opinion, he's not the guy. You know, even when, oh my God. I think the title of this live was something like, what is the most egregious evidence or lack of so far in the prosecution of Richard Allen? Even there, now look, we all know this. The true crime aficionados, we know this. The worst evidence is what, y'all? Eyewitness, right? Our memory, we are terrible in terms of historians. We're terrible with what we saw. Our brain fills in the blanks based on our own history and experiences. And me and you can be standing side by side. We can witness exactly the same thing. And then the next day, give a statement, and our two statements will be different. It's not because we're dishonest. It's because of the way that the brain manages information, consolidation of memory. It's a biological problem. Eyewitness is terrible, terrible. So that's really the only thing that they have to really sink this guy, is people saying, well, you know, I saw a guy, muddy, bloody, brown jacket, blue jacket. Excuse me, Mr. Allen, do you have a blue jacket, a blue windbreaker? You want to know something? Go to the Astros game any Sunday afternoon and start counting the number of men, middle-aged men, that are wearing blue windbreakers. That's not weird. For men, they tend to choose what? Blue, brown, and black. That's kind of their array of clothing, right? I think every jacket my son owns is blue. Every single jacket. My dad, going into his closet, he had one section in his closet that was windbreakers of every type. Windbreakers. It's not weird. It's not unusual. It certainly is not something that ties Richard Allen to this crime scene, especially when your eyewitnesses are all over the place with what kind of jacket bridge guy was wearing. And in fact, listen to this little nugget. Do you know that they didn't even, some of these eyewitnesses didn't even name the right bridge guy, that they encountered other men and said, oh, that must have been bridge guy. Wasn't even the right guy. How do you explain the two drawings? I mean, this was my first, I tried to talk about this at the time. It made Gray Hughes furious. The two drawings of the eyewitnesses, the two drawings, when they revealed these drawings at the press conference, there were literal gasps in the room. Literal gasp. Like, you can go back to that moment where they unveiled the second drawing and they do what? They go, oh! People hear it. Like, they're like, and why are they gasping? Well, they're gasping because it's two different men. It's two different people. And one of the things that really comes to mind is, don't they have hair? Doesn't the younger guy, doesn't he have like a head full of curly hair, kind of like Barry Morphew's hair? Isn't that weird? So we're in the twilight zone. That's where we are. So I'm just curious. I've given you guys, for myself, what I think is the most egregious moment so far. And there's so many of them. So please don't get me wrong. I'm not simplifying this thing at all. But for me and my knowledge base and my years of experience and such, the most egregious thing that has happened that Judge Gull has done with regards to Richard Allen is to put this man in prison and subject him to 1,000 days. Well, let me keep it exact. More than a year of solitary confinement where he experienced sensory deprivation, cognitive dissociation, and they used chemical restraints on him and medication that is notorious for numbing the body. They basically MK Ultra'd this man. And once his brain was starving for stimulation, once his brain had become so numb that he began smearing things on his face, feeling the feces in his hand, rubbing his hand along the wall or the floor, crawling around on the all of that was the brain trying to get stimulated, seeking out stimulation. The brain was saying, are we real? Are we alive? What's happening here? You seen people on meth that are picking at their face? This is a nightmare what they have done to this man. I am telling you, you cannot believe a single word that comes out of his mouth. Not a single word. I know y'all can't hear me. I was trying to get my family to know that I was recording so their conversation wasn't like broadcast to the world. Okay. So for me, the most egregious thing that they did was lock him away in a prison while he still is presumed an innocent man in the eyes of the law. That was done by Judge Gull. Her head should roll. I don't mean hurt her. I'm talking about legally, she should have to answer to this one decision alone. Using chemical restraints on him when that was not the problem. If he had been in a setting where there was sensory stimulation, he would not have become psychotic, in my opinion. He had a history of major depressive disorder, but there was no psychotic features. His wife has flatly denied that, and his mother has flatly denied any history of psychosis at all. This was the brain freaking the hell out because it was numb and he was dissociated. So the smearing of the feces, you and I are getting grossed out. We're like, ugh. What he was doing, he was looking for texture. The sense of touch, just like in tinnitus, ringing, trying to check for sound in the environment, he was seeking out a change in touch. All right. What do you guys find to be the most egregious thing that has happened to Richard Allen by the investigators, the judge, the warden, the jailers? What do you see as being particularly disturbing for a man who's supposed to have to be presumed innocent until he's found guilty in a court of law? All right, I'm going to read your comments, so type it. I thought there were limits on how long they could keep someone in solitary. 30 days dreaming of blue skies and sandy beaches, and they just blew right past that because it was well over like 14 months. I do value, especially as it pertains. That is atrocious. Thank you, Nancy Grace. Or Nancy Drew, sorry, my brain. The trial isn't fair. They tortured him into a confession. Hey, Lady of Angels, Moonlight View, medicine's prescribed, and the doctor's behavior. Again, that a great point, Moonlight View, because it is your healthcare providers who are an additional level of protection, correct? That if you see a person who is in harm's way, a person that's been placed or they're in a position where they're being abused by a person of trust. And in this case, the person of trust is the damn warden. In this case, the person of trust was Holman, the investigator, and the guards that had their little Odinite, patches on. Their mandate was to keep this guy safe because he's innocent until he's proven guilty in a court of law. It's simply insane that Judge Gull put this guy in prison in solitary confinement. It is insanity that she's doing this. What is the motive? What's the motive? What's the motive? What is driving Judge Gull? She is making very foolish decisions. She is doing things, the decisions that she's making in her role as judge in this courtroom lack logic. She is unreasonable. If you agree, if you find Judge Gull's behavior in this case, in this courtroom, to be unreasonable, put a 1 in the chat. If you think she's doing a fine job, put a 2. And I'm not going to say anything until everybody puts their 1 or their 2 in, okay? If you think that she is being unreasonable, illogical in her decisions and choices, put a 1. If you think she's doing great, put a 2. Kathy Gallagher, top of the day to ya. Hey, Izzy girl, Melinda of Freedom, Critter Watcher, Be Kind, welcome. Hey, Donna Burns, Tiki Tavi, Mandy Moo, Cindy, Harley, AP, how are confessions even valid if he was under the influence of Haldol? I don't know, because if you know anything about Haldol creates a dream-like state. What does that mean? Who wants to guess what that means? A dream-like state? They're kind of dreaming while they're awake, that things are very disconnected and slowed down and hazy. And so if you are overdosed on Haldol and then they're screaming at you, you killed them, you killed them, you killed them, you killed them. And then finally the Haldol wears off. Guess what your brain is going to have a hard time doing? It's going to have a really hard time figuring out, I think I killed them. Like I have this memory where, like I said, I am agreeing that I killed them, but I don't really remember killing them. But I must have. Remember the example I gave with the car keys? Yeah, Haldol is, there's one of your MK Ultra drugs right there. Hey, Thomas Randall, good to see you. Cinnamon hot. I don't know. Indiana scares the shit out of me. When I cross country, I drove straight through Indiana, full throttle. I mean, are you kidding me, sugar baby? Okay. Vroom. Even putting an innocent man in prison. Sorry, the chat scrolled. Boop, boop, boop. Why are we not scrolling? There we go. All of it. Me too, Thomas. I'm disturbed. I am disturbed. All of it. Even putting an innocent man in prison under psychological duress while in jail, in prison. Bad things go in there. I've heard stories from inmates that worked in the confinement. So, I mean, you know as well as I do, we're all adults here. Things that are done in secret, they hurt people. If you feel like you need to, somebody needs to be in a secretive setting, somebody may be getting hurt, you know? So look, I am blown away too. And then I need to end this live. I am blown away that these prison guards literally had official patches for the Odin paganistic club. They were allowed to wear them on their official uniforms. Let that sink in. A lot of people haven't really stopped to consider why that is shocking. But the reason that it is shocking is this. Number one, it wasn't one person that decided to, develop a Odin patch and then have it manufactured and then have it sewed on their uniform. It wouldn't have been one person to do that. This is what the Girl Scouts of America do. You know what I mean? They get together because they're a large group and they're working together on a collective goal. And so to demonstrate to the world that they've achieved certain goals that the bigger group has set, they give them little, patches, embroidered patches that they then sew on their uniform or on their sash, right? You've got a bunch of grown-ass men, possibly women, I don't know. You got a bunch of adults who get together to take the time to develop a patch like they're damn astronauts and then have them manufactured, have them embroidered, produced. And then because it's an official law enforcement uniform, they've got to get approval from the damn warden to change the uniform. And the warden said, I have no problem with you putting a Girl Scout patch on your uniform. How many of these guards are in this Odinite ritualistic club? This judge said, that there was nothing connecting Odinism to what happened to Abby and Libby, the evidence with Abby and Libby. Excuse me, Judge Gull. You ended up having this man transported hours away from the town where he was arrested so that he could be imprisoned and put into solitary confinement where the guards were wearing what? Homemaker knitting patches? Santa Claus patches? Oh, okay. Odinism patches, right, Judge Gull? That works for me. That perfectly works out well for me in terms of a man who's been violated by the state by being kept in solitary confinement for more than a year when the rule is no more than 30 days. And you got this man there for 14 months. Are you crazy, Judge Gull? And then you say there's no reason to think that Odinism might be connected to this at all. It was in a prison that you sent him to where he was surrounded by Odin's men. And they were the ones ultimately that administered the chemical restraints, the Haldol, the Seroquel, and I think it was Prozac? And SSRI. And then proceeded to tell him every day, you killed them, you killed them, you killed them, you killed them. And their reprogramming of Richard Allen was so complete that they were not allowing him phone calls with his wife and family, people that would have grounded him in reality, people that would have pulled him back and said, hey, Richard, you seem like you're talking crazy. You sound different. What's happening? They couldn't allow that to happen. They were trying to program him into admitting that he killed the girls. What did he say? If I effed them, I effed them. If I killed them, I killed them. That is dramatically different than someone saying, I confess, I did it. It will not be the last that we will see of Judge Gull. I'm certain of it. I think my current theory for why she has gotten herself so compromised in the prosecution of Richard Allen, she's connected. We know, okay, this is a different case, okay? Barry Morphew. Barry Morphew left Indiana and went to Colorado in a curious flight of panic. When he was in Colorado, and I don't know anything about in Indiana, but in Colorado, he was, I'm being real careful because there's litigious action afoot. When Barry was in Colorado, he did, in fact, socialize at times with men who may or may not have been involved in Odin's men. And what is so shocking is that the group that was known around Salida was founded by a man who came from Indiana. It wasn't Barry. I'm not going to say anymore. That's as far as I'm going to say. But to be clear, so a guy left from Indiana, went to Salida, started another little club for Odin. They don't call themselves Odin's men, but it is a offshoot of that, Odinism. They have a different name for themselves. Went to Colorado, started another group of them there, and Mr. Morphew was known to share a beer with some of them. All right. Now that's all I'm going to say. So the fact that you've got these guys from Indiana that are traveling to other states. Look, it's here in Texas, y'all. The Odinism, paganistic type of activity is a hotbed. In any ethical law enforcement person is going to tell you that. They're not going to shy away from that. And some of it is, a backlash against the political environment that we find ourselves in. But Gull, her actions, she's acting like it's like fantasy. She's acting like the Richard Allen's attorneys were talking about something like the Lost Boys and Tinkerbell, right? Like, this is just too strange and weird and fantastical. You're not going to bring that into my courtroom and make a laughing stock out of me. Guess what, Judge Gull? All you did was you just said, you're not going to make a joke out of me. And then you handed them your beer and said, hey, watch this, because you have turned yourself into a clown. Dark and scary, but clown nevertheless. So what I can't understand is if you are coming from an area that's so deep in these paganistic type ritual clubs and you're expanding out into other states, why would Judge Gull be so adamant that you can't talk about it in her courtroom? She even removed his defense attorneys, left him in a prison with no legal representation, no contact with his family or friends. That is legal, Judge Gull? You lady, you are. So at this point, my heart is broken for Mike and Becky Patty and Libby's mom and Anna Williams, her mom and dad, the grandparents of Abby. This has been so badly managed by Judge Gull that once again, the parents and the grandparents of these girls, they are paying the price yet again, 7 years later, being re-traumatized. And the reality is, I think, that the prosecution of Richard Allen is so compromised at this point. I don't see how it goes. The conversation, there are a couple of jurors that are in abject disbelief. They're looking at Kathy, Richard Allen's wife, just like, oh, I'm so sorry this happened to you. I don't think they can get a not guilty verdict. I think it's going to, I think it's going to be a hung jury. I don't believe that they're going to vote him guilty. I don't. But I think with the odd behavior of Judge Gull, I don't think that she has the ability to refrain from recharging him. I think she will demand it of the prosecution. We'll see. It's just, it's heartbreaking is what it is. It's really heartbreaking. And I'm so glad that, you know, you've got the likes of Lawyer Lee and Andrea Burkhart, people that know what they're doing. Oh, Bob, not Mata, Mata. Oh, no, it is Bob Mata. Because they know the legalities of what is happening. They know how to get some help and to do something. But this poor man has been. So I'm done. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. Please hit a thumbs up or thumbs down, depending on whether you were interested in the conversation. I would invite you to do the YouTubey thing, subscribe, hit the bell. I'll be back. Have a wonderful, wonderful Saturday night, and I ain't got nobody. See you later. Bye.